are 6 different question types in IELTS listening, and on test day it can get pretty intense because you only get one chance. In this video, I'm going to take you through everything you need to know. Okay, before we go through all the different listening question types and whether or not you can write your answers in capital letters, let's just recap the basics. So in IELTS listening, you'll get 30 minutes to complete 40 questions. There are 4 sections. Each section has 10 questions. And as I mentioned, there are 6 different question types. All right, let's take a look at each of those different sections. But just before we do, please click that subscribe button for great IELTS videos. In IELTS listening section 1, you'll hear 2 people speaking in an everyday social context. For example, maybe you'll hear 2 people talking about travel arrangements, or purchasing clothes, or booking a hotel. In section 2, you'll hear a single person, one person, speaking in an everyday social context. For example, you might hear one person talking about a new sports facility or a park ranger. In 3, you'll hear 2 or 3 people having a conversation in an educational context. So for example, you might hear 2 students talking about an assignment, and perhaps you'll hear the professor as well. Or maybe they'll be talking about giving an oral presentation. In section 4, you'll hear one person speaking on an academic topic. For example, maybe he or she will talk about architecture, or biology, or technology. Don't worry, you don't need to be an expert in any of these academic topics. However, by section 4, the vocabulary is definitely getting a little more complex. Okay, I've got a few more things to talk to you about. So, some important details are you only hear the recordings once. You'll also hear a range of accents: British, American, Canadian, Australian, and New Zealand accents. The good news is it's unnatural. It's kind of fake, which means that it's clear. It's not like normal spoken English. And if you're taking the paper-based test, you'll have 10 minutes to transfer your answers. What does this mean? What I mean by that is you will write your answers directly onto the question booklet during the test, and then make sure you transfer those answers carefully. Now, if you're taking the computer-delivered test, it's a lot simpler because you'll actually just complete the answers as you go. You will get 2 minutes at the end to check your answers, but there's really not much you can do because, again, you only hear that audio once. Right, we're about to get started, and what I want you to do is to download the free practice test from the description below. This practice test also has an answer sheet, and it's a fillable PDF. We're actually going to do quite a few questions in this video, and I want you to do them with me directly into this practice test. So, in IELTS listening, what are they actually testing you for? Well, in IELTS listening, you need to listen for main ideas, detailed information, opinions, attitudes, the purpose of what's being said, as well as the development of ideas. In terms of scoring, if you're aiming for an IELTS 6, you'll need to get at least 23 points out of 40. 7, you'll need to get at least 30 out of 40. And if you're aiming for an IELTS 8, you'll need to get at least 35 questions right out of 40. So you can see that there really isn't much room for error here. If you get 34 instead of 35, then you won't get that IELTS 8. That's why
for the second and 25 for the third. But ideally, you need to go through the questions even more quickly. Basically, when you find a question and you don't know what the answer is, you can't find an answer, don't spend too much time on this question. Just mark it like to review and move on. And once you finish all the questions, if you have time, then you go back and you'll be looking for answers to those questions. But you get yourself the best chance to get the highest mark if you attempt to answer all the questions. In a paper-based reading, you'll be marking your answers on the question sheets first, but then you're not going to get extra time to transfer your answers at the end. You must finish everything in 60 minutes. So what I usually do is I answer a certain section, like a type of questions, and then I transfer answers. Then the next type of question, transfer my answers, and so on. I don't leave it until the end, because what if you run out of time before you do that? Imagine, I saw that happen in the exam I took last year, and a girl was transferring her answers and she ran out of time. She continued doing that, and the invigilator came up and just crossed out, 5, 7 answers at the end.
Have a huge effect on your score. In today's video, we're going to be looking at 9 tips to help you with the IELTS reading test. Coming up. Welcome, my name is Eli and I run the website EnglishProTips.com, where we help students get ready for the IELTS test. Now, in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at 9 tips to help you with the IELTS reading test. But before we do that, it's important to know some information about the reading test. So first of all, you have 1 hour to do the test. In the test, you'll find that there are 3 sections, so 3 passages or 3 texts that you have to read. And in those 3 sections, you'll find 40 questions in total. Now, each question is worth 1 mark, and you don't lose marks for incorrect answers. So it's always worth guessing if you don't know the answer. You can write the entire test in capital letters if you want. Remember, you don't have extra time to transfer your answers at the end. When the test finishes, the test finishes. Now, you also need to know that there's a different reading test for the academic and general IELTS. The 9 in the IELTS reading test. The first tip is to structure your approach. I'll show you what I mean. So as I mentioned, there's 3 sections to the IELTS reading test. In each section, there's a certain order that I would do things in. First of all, I would glance at the questions. So glance means just to look quickly at the questions. Don't get stuck into them. When you glance at the questions, just identify the question type. After that, read the text quickly. This is also referred to as skimming. While you're reading the text quickly, you're going to highlight or underline things like names, dates, names of theories or location, things that help you to understand the layout of the text. This is also going to help you answer the questions later on. You also want to make a note, whether it's on the piece of paper, the question paper, or a mental note on the layout of the text, so what you find in each paragraph. The purpose of this skimming is to help you know what part of the text you're going to read in detail when you answer the questions. Now, the final part is to actually tackle the questions themselves. So, when you're reading through the questions, underline words in those questions that help you